Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here with us today. We're really excited for this opportunity and this idea that we've actually been working on for quite a few weeks. Just to give you a bit of a background of what this idea is, once we were approached by the brand to come up with a communications proposal, our market research department looked at some information and found an untapped market. The untapped market is actually what we know as the baby boomer market. Who are the baby boomers? These are people that are between the ages of approximately 54 to 72. So women, the female baby boomers, are actually quite a lucrative demographic. Again, we'll get more into detail exactly why this demographic is very profitable. But just to give you an idea, they actually do spend a lot of money. There's a huge growth in this sector. They will account for approximately 30% of the UK population by 2022. So it is a huge market. And without further ado, let's get into the communications proposal. So as we mentioned, the target market is the young boomer. We are focusing on the younger boomer, the ones that are between the ages of 54 and 60. They're affluent women who are also very fashion conscious. We know Paul Smith is quite a high fashion brand, so likewise, we'd like to stay consistent and stick to women that know fashion, women that can appreciate high-end designer fashion. So why them specifically? High disposable income, for sure. These women are most likely to be retired or housewives or unemployed. Research has shown us, Mummel and Podnick have spoken about how women between the ages of 54 and 58 who are unemployed, early retired, or just housewives are known as socially active. Socially active women tend to spend more money when they do shop, and they actually tend to shop a lot more frequently than their counterparts. There's also an age and weight we found a positive correlation between age and weight. So the older the women get, the more likely they are to request for plus size clothing. We have actually noticed that Paul Smith does not carry plus size clothing. And women over the age of 55 generally aim for minimum size 16 clothing, which we see is Paul Smith's biggest size offering. So therefore, we'd also like to stick to a younger market. Also, these women like to break the stereotype. These are not old women with gray hair, wearing dentures. I mean, these are fashionable women. They're out there. It's just a stereotype that we have in our heads that these women are basically just old and they've basically given up on life, but that's not true. So here's our messaging. We want to focus on the everyday woman. Why the everyday woman? The everyday woman because research has shown us that today people are more likely to focus on relatable influencers. So they don't want to see the pretty dolled up actors and actresses or influencers that we know don't look like that every day. People whose lives have been laid out and seemingly perfect. We want the everyday woman, but the Paul Smith way, which is with a twist. So that is our messaging. That is our theme, that we want an everyday woman with a twist. We've seen a lot of research and we've seen a lot of movements over the past year where it's been the year of the woman. We have seen a lot of campaigns such as Me Too, Time's Up, most recently I Believe Her, a lot where women are now being put forward. So we've also found that women like to find models that are more relatable. Women who kind of represent the women that they are trying to market. So this is our campaign idea. We'll go more into detail, but as you can see, we'd like to focus on women. We'd like to keep things colorful. We'd like to really stay true to Paul Smith and his image. So we start with Vogue. Now, Vogue is the most widely read high fashion magazine in the country and possibly in the world too. The September issue by far is the most read, highly respectable, most likely to be read by anyone and everyone. Now, the average age of the Vogue reader is 33 years old. And this is just a little mock-up of a Vogue September issue, where, as you can see at the bottom, it says inside the Paul Smith anniversary issue. So we would like to introduce an issue that will be put into the Vogue magazine, where this will be called the Paul Smith anniversary issue. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Anniversary of what? What anniversary? So in 2 years, we'll be marking 50 years of Paul Smith and the Paul Smith brand. But just like everything that Paul Smith does, we'd like to do things slightly outside the box. Therefore, start celebrating the anniversary 2 years in advance. So we can call this the anniversary issue. This will be advertising in the form of direct marketing. And it'll be an insert inside Vogue magazine. Now, what would this insert have, you ask? The insert could have an interview about the vision that Paul Smith sees for the next 50 years. He can talk about females, empowerment, how these women are also worth looking at. These women should not be ignored, which is what research has shown us. 80% of the female boomers feel that they're being ignored by the marketing world. They're basically being told to look younger, or that, their lives right now are terrible and that back then everything was great, or they should try and look younger, or they play the whole nostalgic card. But here, we'd like to empower these women. We'd like to tell them that, hey, listen, you've still got a life to live. It's not like you don't. So this insert could feature an interview with Paul Smith, as well as the idea was to find everyday inspirational women that we could feature in this insert. So an example here is Julia. This is a real woman. This is Julia. She's 56 years old. She's quite fit. She enjoys working out, as we can see. I mean, I'm less than half her age and I could not do that. She really breaks the stereotype. Here she talks about how if you Google women over 50, you're faced with grinning gray-haired ladies. They're advertising stair lifts, or they're holding hands with each other on cruise ships, and have none of these models ever heard of hair dye? So she's not the typical 56-year-old woman. She wants to break the stereotype. And this, to me, I feel like is an everyday, but she's an inspirational woman. So the idea is to feature approximately 10 models where, we just have a picture of them wearing the Paul Smith clothing. We've got a nice little quote. We've got a little bit of writing. So as people can flip through with them and see all these different inspirational women from different walks of life, but again, sticking to our target demographic, of course. Inside these inserts, as you can see right here, we will have 2 loyalty cards. We would like to introduce a loyalty program to Paul Smith. Now, there will be 2 cards. Why? Because the caption can say possibly, 1 card for you and 1 card for the inspirational woman in your life. So the Vogue issue runs in September. So that runs from approximately 3rd of September until the 6th of September. Approximately 10 days later, we will have London Fashion Week. Now, we know that Paul Smith generally shows or presents at London Fashion Week. So we figured, let's stick to that. Let's keep presenting at London Fashion Week, but this time around, keeping true to our messaging, the women that we featured in the Vogue insert, let's sprinkle those women in the lineup for Paul Smith's presentation at London Fashion Week. This is going to differentiate itself from its competitors. It's going to really reinforce the idea and the messaging, and it's really going to let these women see the clothes on younger models as well as older models. Now, we would like to keep using younger models as well, because we do know Paul Smith currently does have a market catering to a younger demographic, and we don't want to alienate that demographic either. We do want to let them keep seeing the brand as just it's expanding. It's not shifting its focus. So these women can really help reinforce the idea. They can have fun, again, using Paul Smith idea of music, humor, having fun, making it colorful. And we feel like this can then run during the month of September. It can grab lots of media attention. It can start being sprinkled all over the media, start gaining more attention. So those that probably missed out on the Vogue issue could now see this message at London Fashion Week. We'd also like the messaging to continue on social media. So we found, research has shown us that Facebook is actually quite the favorite social media for our target demographic. Most of them actually do use Facebook, and so here you can see the messaging on Facebook. We can measure the campaign's effectiveness with the likes or with the shares, so that can be a metric of measurement for us. And then we can also feature them on the website. We can show them how the messaging is also on the website. It talks about, goes a little bit more in detail about these women. It can maybe they can share their stories a little bit further, so as those that shop online can continue seeing the message. That then takes us to the 30 days of Christmas. So 30 days before Christmas, we can now use these loyalty programs to activate a cashback system. So the way this works is now people can go into stores, and every purchase they make, they will get a cashback. So for example, every £100 spend, they can get a £5 cashback. In that case, this is going to help us measure how many repeat purchases we have, which is the third objective of our campaign. So we create positive attitudes. With the Vogue campaign, we have increase in interest and desire with the London Fashion Week and with the social media, and then we increase repeat purchases with the 30 days of Christmas reward program. Now, the reward program is going to help reinforce the idea again. It's going to help with repeat purchases, especially because it's Christmas time. We have a lot of people purchasing stuff for their friends and for their families and for their loved ones. And we think that this is really going to help bring a new demographic in, and it's going to create more loyalty, because this demographic tends to be quite the loyal type as well. So what we can now come up with and what we can see is that this is quite a lucrative market. They have lots of money to spend, and we just need to steer them in the right direction and make them spend that money. So the interaction with the messaging on social media, plus the registration of the loyalty cards, plus the repeat purchases during the promotion are the metrics that will be used to measure the effectiveness of the campaign. This concludes our presentation. Thank you so much for having us here today. We look forward to working with you and enhancing the brand that is Paul Smith.